I'm the Tepper Quad from the Tepper School, and Professor Bryan Routledge is Associate Professor of Finance here at the Tepper School. He's one of our Canadians. We have a strong Canadian group of faculty members here at the Tepper School, and he received his bachelor's from Queen's University in Kingston in '87, and his PhD in finance from the University of British Columbia in Vancouver in 1996. He joined us in the fall of 1995 at GSIA and was appointed Associate Professor of Finance in 2002. So we're very glad to have him with us. He's also, in addition to being our expert on the Tepper Quad, he is an award-winning young faculty member who received the George Leland Teaching Award for Excellence in the Classroom for the master's program twice, once in 1998 and in 2004. And I know he's a very popular professor among our students. He teaches in our core finance class. How many of you had Professor Routledge when you were here? Okay. And I'm sure the younger ones as they come in will all say that they had him as well. He teaches the Introduction to Computational Finance in the MSCF program as well, and Alpha, the Trading and Behavioral Finance, and the MBA program in Venture Capital and Private Equity. So he has a broad range of finance expertise, and his research focuses on lots of areas of finance, but more common research focusing on the application of quantitative text analysis and natural language processing. Think of using your Twitter data and trying to figure out trends and things that are going on there. And so he's just some really interesting talks on that as well. But he is co-chair this morning of the new Tepper Quad Working Group and has been a part of that since the very beginning. So from the inception of the planning for the Tepper School, Bryan's been involved in it, and he's learned much more about building design and urban planning than he probably ever imagined he would in his lifetime. So join me in welcoming Professor Bryan Routledge.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I was listening to that list, and there's nothing there that would suggest I know anything about architecture or project management or anything that would actually be useful, but yes, you do pick up a lot of things quickly and learn. The one thing all of our faculty have learned is to avoid stopping past my office and asking how the building is going. Because that question, seemingly like how's the weather, generates about an hour and a half answer, because it's a big project and it's complicated, so, but it's pretty cool and pretty exciting. So let me see if I can show you some pictures. Interrupt with questions as we go. We can take some questions at the end. We've got lots of time. So let me start with the plan is basically to build not just a new building, but this is to house sort of this new vision for how business school education will happen here. The kind of this transformation in business education that started here, back in the day, and when we first built our old building in 1951, and then re-engineering. So here's where we are in the schedule. This picture is encouraging to me because the arrow is sort of in the middle. It used to be way to the left. It's sort of in the middle. I'm hoping it moves to the right at some point. So first of all, pull your eye back and get sort of a broad sense of the scale here. This is our architect's schedule. This is just our architect on this project is involved from like June 14 through July 18. So the finish of this building is the commencement 2018 is when we're going to declare the building open. I suspect we'll be declaring the building open, but don't look behind the curtain. But through the summer we'll move in, so fall of 2018, we are no longer living here. We're living in a new place. But this is, this is like first order thing that strikes you as ridiculous. 4 years to build a building. But it's not 4 years, because we've been planning this since way before June 14. Here is the first photograph I could find of the new Tepper Quad Working Group. This is of course Andrew Carnegie there, and he is talking to Henry Hornbostel. Henry Hornbostel is the first architect of Carnegie Mellon. All of the classic buildings you see on campus. The first building on campus was Baker Porter. This was when Carnegie sold his steel company and found he was a wealthy man, donated the $1 million that sort of founded Carnegie Tech University. There was a competition for the design of both the first building on campus and the first master plan of campus, the whole community. And so this idea of the Hornbostel Mall over here, right, which was the original plan that Hornbostel, there's about 5 or 6 architects. Hornbostel is a Pittsburgh native. The yellow brick buildings that you see are the The brick is local. It's the Katanning yellow brick from up the river. So you tell the youngsters that to make sure you get some credibility that Hornbostel designed the Williamsburg Bridge in New York City. So if you need to sort of find something that is to cement your hipster credibility, I think you go with the Williamsburg Bridge, right? From, there you go. So that's the fine arts building in the background, sort of. I'm not too sure where you're going to call Hornbostel's masterpieces, but that's certainly got to be in up there. And then, there's no vision yet for GSIA living back around in the corner. So it's been running a while. So when we got to October 30th of this year and a groundbreaking ceremony, it was pretty exciting because we've been talking about this for a long time. And eventually we had this groundbreaking ceremony that was that happened in October. So there were lots of smiles as a result of this, having made this progress here. So that's the case. There's Bob. Bob had a long interview with CNBC the day that and aside, there was a committee that planned the groundbreaking that ran almost as long as the committee that's actually building the building. So it was one that it sort of appeared in my life, only glanced at it, and so that was a good thing. But it was complicated because we had CNBC here, their opening day, their closing day. It was a big, exciting day. I also got to work a shovel. So this was the persona I adopted. If you know your 1990s cult movies, that's Mystery Men, right? People know this, yeah? Yeah. The people who planned the groundbreaking ceremony were a little concerned that I actually might show up, not in a sort of full suit. Those, I shovel very well. So that's where we got to. Here is the actual architect. So this is Buzz Udell in the center there, standing beside. This machine was rented just for the groundbreaking ceremony. I'm pretty sure it was like near an X, pure coincidentally, but it makes for a nice picture. So Buzz Udell from the firm that is designing our building is Moore Rubel Udell. And then the principal architect that's to his left is Jeannie Chen. That's sort of the principal team. And then the head engineer over here is David Hurd, that are our Bureau Happel that are putting this plan together. So here's the, I'll show you the pictures in a second, but just to give you a sense of the scope of this, it's a really big building. So the plan is for 300,000 square feet. Right? At one point it was 295, but we rounded up. I've forgotten what it is now. It's either 305 or 315. Our architect and our project manager disagree exactly how big the building is. I believe there are some budget implications of that. We're working on it. But call it 300,000 square feet, we can round. And it's basically where Morewood parking lot used to be. That's all going away. And what you're going to have here is going to be this big lawn that's going to be the size of the mall or the Cut. The building's going to be in the background there. I'll show you exactly where it's going to be. And then the north part of the parking lot's going to remain for a while. Eventually, that's going to go away and be buildings for the future of campus. So this is a big change at Carnegie Mellon. It is a leap across Forbes Avenue. It is turning Forbes Avenue from a boundary street to our front door. Right? So buildings in the past at Carnegie Mellon used to be built with their sort of bum towards the door. If you think about the old University Center, the loading dock was pointing right at Forbes Avenue because, Forbes Avenue was like the back alley of Carnegie Mellon. We are reorientating Carnegie Mellon, and Forbes Avenue is we're going to embrace this as this, sort of classic university corridor that's going to be, when you drive down Forbes Avenue, you're going to be driving through Carnegie Mellon. So Carnegie Mellon be on the left and the right, yep.
Can you just tell us where this picture is taken from?
This is standing on top of Warner Hall.
And that's Forbes in the...
Yep, so this is Forbes here. Yeah, I'll show you a map in a second. So this is Forbes Avenue here. And then this is sort of looking off. What's weird about this is most people live down at the surface. And so I'm going to show you pictures, and you're not going to recognize stuff like this. So for example, this in the background, if you're from Pittsburgh, this won't surprise you if you just sort of visited here for the few years you were here. This is Central Catholic High School, which is the big football powerhouse, and football is a big deal here in Western Pennsylvania. And you would not have known, I mean, I was here 20 years, I had no idea this was here, right? You sometimes would see this from Fifth Avenue and go, oh, okay, that's Central Catholic, but you never realized it was so close. When we rip all these trees down in about 2 minutes, you'll see exactly how close we are, and this is sort of part of what's happening. So the other thing you'll see in this picture is when all these trees go and a building goes here, all of that Oakland sort of joins into the rest of campus. And so it's this $200 million project, but we're getting like billions of dollars worth of real estate for it, right? The Oakland is sort of coming in, the museum's right close by, all of Pitt's quite close by, all of sort of the Oakland corridor that's right there. So this is what's changing. Here is sort of the lot back in May. The first thing we did was we dug a trench under Forbes Avenue to get some utilities over there, so the power, steam, that sort of thing. So this was right the sort of first tree branches that came down. All these cars are going away. It's going to be a big hole in a second. So here is the groundbreaking ceremony. This dirt, by the way, was actually brought in for the groundbreaking ceremony. This was the second load of dirt that came in. The first load of dirt that came in was too earthy in its aroma, was sent back. And so this was the dirt that was gleaned appropriate enough to get your shovel into. And what you're looking at here, this sort of stream of dirt for the 10, 12 people who had the ceremonial shovel is generously call it a cubic yard, 27 cubic feet of dirt, probably a little less than that, but that's the case. So this dump truck here holds about 10 cubic yards of dirt. We had about 30 of them working full-time, double shifting part through the fall, because we had really nice weather through the fall. So we had about 30 of these dump trucks, each holding 10 cubic yards. They could turn about 6 to 8 times a day to go dump the dirt. So that's, call it 2,000 cubic yards a day for about 50 days from October 30th through to early January. So 100,000 cubic yards of dirt is what we've moved out of this parking lot. It's a big amount of dirt. Some of the dirt, just interesting bit of trivia. The city blew up the Greenfield Bridge recently. The Greenfield Bridge came down. It was dilapidated. We blew it up. Apparently, when you blow up a bridge and it lands on a highway, you like to cushion that blow because you don't want to ruin your highway. Some of our dirt was used to cushion that blow. So I don't know where the rest of the dirt went. My sense is exactly when the contracts, where's the dirt going? That costs you extra if you want to know where the dirt goes, right? So 100,000 cubic yards of dirt is no longer here. So this is what the site looked like for a long time, which was basically these big diggers moving stuff out. You can see this football field. You guys had no idea this football field was so close to campus. It turns out some of it's actually on Carnegie Mellon property. Our relationship with Central Catholic is friendly, but complicated. This is just their practice field, by the way. Nobody would actually host a high school football game here because you can't fit 100,000 people around. But you'll see that Neville Street, that's right down there, is our building's going to butt down to Neville Street, way down in the hollow. The other thing you notice is those big piles of rock that are here. The site turned out to be more rocky than anticipated, and rock is more complicated to move, right? So why don't you just dynamite it, right? You ask all of these kind of naive questions. Apparently you're not allowed to dynamite inside cities, because apparently it's sort of bad for classic hornbosses in the background if you're busy dynamiting. So this guy over here, jackhammering out rock, is part of the reason that the digging was more expensive than anticipated. But this was the parking lot, so you can get a sense as to where our building's going to be. That's the Gates-Hillman building in the background. That's the Heinz College across the street. That's coming. Here is Forbes Avenue that's right up here. So the building is going to come close to Forbes Avenue. This is going to be the parking level on the first floor dug down. This is a big retaining wall we built to make sure the Forbes Avenue didn't sort of disappear throughout the project. Through the fall, the first thing that went in were the caissons, which are the pillars that support the building. So if the dirt washes away, your building will still sit there. So there's 160 odd of these caissons, these big steel. Put the steel drill a hole drill a little further into the rock, drop the steel down, pour the concrete. That's what these pictures are. Sorry, this is from I got to go in the construction trailer. I was wearing a hard hat. It was pretty exciting. They have a little map that had where every one of those push pins is where a caisson's going to go, and I'm assuming the black were the ones as they finish them. So there's the drilling machine that goes down, putting the caisson. So this is going to be sort of right below sort of where the undergraduate lounge is going to be. The front door of the building is going to be way over here, right? So the 300,000 square foot building on 4.5 floors, 5 floors. So it's these big 65,000 square foot floor plates. It's a big monster to walk from one end to the other. So getting this to work is an architectural challenge. Here is the caissons being poured. You get a sense of how big they are. These are the columns that are going to run right up through the building in various places. This is the Central Catholic right in the background. That's that high school that used to be, in the other part of the world, and there it is right close by. So this is my favorite construction shot, just the pensive contemplating the future of, waiting for the concrete to pour. So it's a very nice shot. Jamie Sauer, our building operations person, who's my also on the working group, is our chief photographer. So he walks the site twice a week and gets us a good set of photographs. In February, if you were worried that that undergraduate newspapers had lost their sense of drama, you need not worry. Forbes water main break devastates. So on Forbes Avenue, a 20-inch water main line broke. It's old pipe. That's the official story. It's old pipe. It's got nothing to do with 10,000 dump trucks running over the road. And here is the water cascading down our site. It's pretty spectacular. Turns out the damage is relatively minor, but the pictures are pretty awesome. You get a sense of this. So this is Neville Street down below. So this will be eventually the loading dock of the building, and also if you're a pedestrian arriving, this will be a stairway up to campus from here. I don't think we can afford the waterfall, even though it's quite pretty. We had to fix the shoring wall on Forbes Avenue, so there was some wall that happens. And then what's going on now is we're now at the part where they're starting to put up, this is where we're going to be the wall of the garage is going to be here, and then eventually the main entrance is going to be up this way. So this is the formwork they put up, and then drop some rebar in, and there's the rebar, and then the concrete's going to pour in. And this was 2 weeks ago, this picture, and so there's now lots of walls that are up. And then the other big exciting thing that happened just this week is this little blue thing over here. This is the tower crane that's coming that will eventually be 80 feet in the air, moving giant trusses. Somewhere in, not next summer, but the following summer, there's a 100-foot truss that's going to be lifted up by a crane that they're going to drive through Oakland. In one piece, it's 100-foot truss, and then lift it up in a crane. It'll be pretty cool. This will be the crane that'll do it, although I'm advocating for a helicopter just for the visuals. And then my understanding is part of this crane is never going to move, right? So this will be abandoned in place. So somewhere under cafeteria, roughly around where the cafeteria will be, below there will be a crane. So that's sort of where we're at now in terms of the building, in terms of the construction update. I'm starting with that because I've been staring at plans long enough that actually knowing that dirt is being moved is sort of exciting. But let me step back and sort of show you what the building's supposed to be and what the idea is. This is David Tepper's quote for the building, which is not just a building, but it's got to be a great idea. So the big idea here is to try and think about how to redo what was the essence of GSIA back in the day. What do we do that was different? How do we do that again? The goal is not to try and out country club Yale, in part because that's just wrong, in part because we're not going to do that, right? The Yale building that was recently built by Sir Foster somebody or other, the same guy who's doing the Apple campus is, it's like $1,000 a square foot or something like that. It's just ridiculous, right? But what's sort of the essence? What can we do with this sort of opportunity to move? What can we do that's different? And so this is what gives you chills at night when David Tepper taps you on the shoulder and says, not just a great building, a great idea, right? So I'm on it. So here is old GSIA back in, this is like 1949, 1950. The building's finished in 1951. This is standing with the Shenley Park is to your left. The buggy races are going right past the front to get a sense of where it is. My office is right up here, right? So 305 is just down the corner. But I find this picture both inspiring and terrifying in the sense that this was, where it all happened, right? You're looking at this building and you think of all the things that are to come in this building. So computer science, right, starts right here in the basement. So the only computer science department in the world I know of that was started in sort of a social sciences department, but the first computer on campus donated by IBM, International Business Machines, right? Why wouldn't you give it to a business school? Goes in the basement here, right? Herb Simon and Henry Newell used to leave the basement windows open so they could sneak back in at night and program, right? Their big thing was to do teach the computer to play chess, right? That was sort of the early artificial intelligence ones, and 50, 60 plus years later, right? Google's now teaching computers to play Go, right? So all that comes around goes around. The Bob Lucas and the rational expectations revolution in the 70s in economics that eventually leads to his Nobel Prize is here. We're right in the heart of political season, so your Nate Silver 538, quantitative political social science, all starts here with Keith Poole and Howard Rosenthal, which are the first people to take voting data and actually do a principal component analysis, right? This was sort of a big innovation. So that's pretty, that's all pretty awesome. And so what we need is, this, right? Someone 70 years from now looking at this going, oh, wow, can you imagine all the things were to come out of this, hole in the ground 7 years later, which is partly why this is, a scary task. What do you put in a building to kind of make that happen? So here's kind of I was going to say the 30,000 foot view of this, but that's probably not quite literally true. But here's sort of the innovation that we're aiming for. Is to, if you look at where we are now, this is our GSIA building right in the corner of campus. If you look around where business schools are on campus, they are at the edge of campus, right? Physically at the edge of campus, and practically in the same. And so the idea of young GSIA was basically to bring science to business students. Right? So which is basically to go out and draw in economics and mathematics, optimization and cognitive psychology, bring that towards business students and teach it to them. But there is a sense in which the students are separated from the rest of campus in the sense of, it's filtering through the faculty, bringing it to the students, and the students are sort of separated from. So the idea is basically that the Morewood parking lot's over here, and campus is changing tremendously. To the part that sort of campus is eventually going to sort of look like this. So we're essentially moving the business school from the edge of campus right to the heart. Right? So this is to, Bob's description of this is to the future of business education is interconnected with the rest of campus. Not just sort of interdisciplinary in the sense of we draw on this, sort of deeply interconnected. And the idea is that, if you think about any, big issue floating around, I don't know, take global warming. Right? You can't understand global warming without a serious amount of science, right? In the sense of understanding the geology, the fluid dynamics, right? The serious science, as well as the econometrics of measuring temperatures and separating trend from cycle. And also, if you think about policy implications, you're not going to have any policy implications unless you appreciate business, right? If you can't, right? If you actually want to affect change, it's got to somehow flow through the boardroom. That's a sense in which all these sort of problems are future interconnected, right? Data analytics, right? Where does data analytics live on campus? It's, is it marketing? Right? Kinda, but it's sort of, it's also machine learning and social sciences, and it's the big part. And so that's the sense in which the campus we're sort of moving to the heart of campus. The change for, I describe this to my faculty colleagues as we are moving from Fox Chapel to Lawrenceville, right? We are no longer in the countryside, right? In this nice sort of, suburban environment. We are downtown. It is time to buy a fixed gear bike and some skinny jeans, and maybe think about a goatee, right? So, so if you think about that sort of metaphor, right? It's loud, it's noisy, it's honking, it's right. It's there's no birds chirping. It's not sort of quiet and reflective. It's wow, right? And so that's the change. But also, it's it is exciting in the sense of to try and tie this in. So the building's sort of located right at the heart. My comment earlier about Forbes Avenue, we're this red. Those other blue circles are projects that are sort of happening on campus or off in the future. So wander over and take a look at the University Center. Is recently renovated, reoriented towards Forbes Avenue. Scott Hall Energy Institute, just off of Forbes Avenue, is now finished. That's that building that's on stilts. It's really pretty. There's plans for a new Gateway Center, which is to be new space for the future Apples, Ubers to come work next to campus. There's a new building going up here. The Heinz School just across the street's renovating. There's plans up here at Doherty Hall. So all of Forbes Avenue is changing. That's a sense in which we're going to be right in the heart of it. So here's what that parking lot's going to look like in the near future when we're done in 2018. So this was the picture from here's Warner Hall. That picture we were looking at was we were sitting on Warner Hall looking this way. So all of those cars that are here are gone, and this is a huge mall-like area. The Tepper Quad will be this big green grassy area, sloped area, and the idea is there are all the students living in Shadyside, all of the undergrads in Shadyside, most of our graduate students all live sort of in that Shadyside. They're all flowing across this, and they're going to be drawn into this, into our world, right? It's no longer the case that students are on campus. Non-business students are going to not know where the business school is, right? You can do your undergraduate in computer science and never actually make it to this part of campus, right? Except maybe on buggy race day or Joe the hot dog guy, right? You'll never sort of notice what's in. This is a building that will draw you in. That's the idea, is that students will sort of be attracted to business that will do some of this interconnection for us. To give you a sense of scale, this is really big. So if we zoom in a little bit, so this is zooming in on this part here, that part that says Tepper Quad. So we zoom in a little bit. I counted all of those little dots to see how many people. There's like 100 people standing around there, and they're not very densely scattered. If you give people 4 square feet, which is sort of like a concert with a chair kind of thing, you can fit like 600 in this little square. Sort of, if you jam them in, you can get like 1,500 people in there for a concert, right? Or some sort of event. It's a big. And then you can also see this sort of flow of people across. There'll be a new crosswalk here on Forbes Avenue, right in the center, that are kind of all coming past the building. And then here is sort of some renderings getting you a sense of what the outside of this look like. This is an alley of trees. I did not know that word until I sat with our landscape architect. I did not know there were landscape architects until I met our landscape architect. So, if you're from Pittsburgh, our landscape architect is Sasaki. If you're from Pittsburgh, the University of Pittsburgh old parking lot became Shenley Plaza. That was Alan Ward. That was his design of sort of reclaiming urban spaces is kind of their thing. So this is a big alley of trees that will cut across the quad that brings you straight into the building. And then this is the view from down sort of towards sort of corner of Morewood and Forbes as you arc off towards our building. And you can see that I'll show you the detailed picture in a second, but this big building that they have, the architect has broken it down into smaller pieces to try and make it appear, sort of more human scale. So the prominent feature is this big hub in the center, big glass hub in the center with these 2 wings, so that this big 65,000 square foot building is broken down into these 2 pieces. Only because this is GSIA, MSIA. Here's the optimization you're doing when you're an architect. They don't describe it this way. But roughly what you want in a building is you want square feet. Right? We need square feet to put faculty and students in. What makes a building expensive is perimeter and skin. So if you sort of think about a rectangle and you optimize maximum square foot area with a constraint that says the perimeter's not so big, you'll come up with a square, right? You all did the first order condition in your head. I appreciate that. You come up with a square building, so why not build a building square? Well, square buildings, besides being boring, are not very pleasant because all that center area doesn't have much light. Right? So the basic challenge of an architect is to try and make square-like buildings in the sense of efficiency, but not literally square buildings so that you actually have some light in the center. So what he has done is basically divided this in two, and so this is a giant glass atrium that comes through here. It's like, I don't know, you're looking at like 12,000 square feet of glass that shoots right through to Oakland as you walk in. That's this very inviting. As you get up closer to the building, the undergraduate lounge will be sort of back over here, and this will be a grove, which is different from an allée. My ability to do the New York Times crossword puzzle has increased ever so slightly as a result of this. And you can see the sense in which the building flows inside and outside. And our architect, by the way, is from Santa Monica. And so every once in a while, Santa Monica slips out and he says things like, imagine a winter garden where you might have to wear a sweater. Yeah, a winter garden in Pittsburgh is like 4 sweaters and like a rain jacket and umbrella, right? And lots of cursing and swearing and some salt down and some sleet and yeah. Exactly. Yeah. My other favorite phrase, our architect is spectacular, but my other favorite phrase he has every once in a while is, this is why we take our vacations in Italy, in a nice Italian villa. Yes, I can imagine a vacation in Italy is very nice, but it's not where I personally take my vacations, Yeah, that's why we all take our vacations in Italy. Okay, I got it. All right. So here is the building rendered a bit more carefully. So what you're seeing is, first of all, our renderer does not appreciate that people on bikes should have helmets on. I have pointed this out repeatedly. It's not, Anyway, I crash fairly frequently on my bike. Matter of fact, I've had 3 broken bones in my lifetime. 2 of them have been on this project. So and both of them related to a bike. So wear your helmet. So what you're seeing is basically this grand atrium here, this big hub form that's breaking it down. The way the building is sort of laid out at the moment is master's students would come in and turn to the left and aim for classrooms. Undergraduate students will turn to the right. One of the changes that happens as we move across is this will be a home not just for master's students. This will also be a home for our undergraduates. Currently, if you're an undergraduate student at Tepper, which is the most competitive program at Carnegie Mellon to get in now, in the sense of it is as exclusive as computer science and all the other spectacular programs we have. But if you come here, only about 20% of your Tepper classes would actually physically be in our building. So introductory finance is taught all around campus, and so our students don't feel like they have a home. This will bring them a home, so part of bring them in. What you can see is there's the glass, the building's about half glass and half brick. I'll show you some details on the brick in a second. But this light is to sort of, the sense of what you want to draw people in, this beacon to be a place to come for the future of business education. This is the aim, is to draw you in. Here's sort of, this is not a very fancy rendering, but this gives you a sense as to what the building might look like at night, in the sense of just lighting up those glass areas. It's going to be spectacular when you walk past. When you drive past Forbes Avenue and stare on your left, when you drive past or walk across campus, you will know stuff is happening in this building. It's not one of those sort of, dark buildings, which, what goes on is a mystery. This is sort of out there. It's happening, right? You move people around. The other person I interact with in my role is Carl, the code guy. He's an engineer at Bureau Happold who keeps track of our code. And so one of the things Carl has to do is figure out the fire safety evacuation, very important task. One of the steps to do that is to figure out how many people can fit in your building. So according to code, we can fit like 7,500 people in our building. Right? You put 7,500 people in the building and 1,500 people on the lawn out front, that is all of Carnegie Mellon. Right? So it's pretty impressive. And there's Carl has a video of all 8,000 of those people leaving the building. Right? So you put all those people in a building and then you simulate a fire. And you simulate a fire in the worst possible place because you want to sort of plan conservatively. So the worst possible place for fire is right here because that's the big exit. So you simulate a fire there and then you figure out how long it takes to get 8,000 people out of the building. It's like 12 minutes. Yeah, about 12 minutes. And then once you figure out it's 12 minutes, then you design the smoke evacuation and the building to stand up for 12 minutes plus safety factor. Right? They double it and add a couple of minutes to it. And I can tell you if the fire alarm rings in the building, and I think this is general advice, leave. Right? So the little people that are at the end of the line that weren't paying attention, they take a long time, right? Because there's a queue at the stairwell that goes down. So listen to fire alarms. Right? Fires grow exponentially. It's hard for humans to process. Okay, bricks. So part of the design of the building is since this is the first building on this quad, there will be other buildings that will happen over the future years. There'll be a building that go in behind us, a couple of buildings up the side. The architect has to provide, I'm going to slip into architect mode here, has to provide a language for the quad, an architectural language that people can build. You don't want to build sort of a one-off icon thing that is just there that makes it hard for other buildings. So one of the tensions that the architect has to face is you want to build a building that's sort of, that's interesting, beautiful, iconic, but at the same time provides for, future, as well as you want to let people know this is Carnegie Mellon University. So how do you do that? Well, the Katanning yellow brick of Hornboss is classic. And if you wander over to our architecture department and start an argument about yellow brick, you will have one, right? So there are deep opinions about whether or not your building in the background, for example, here's the Gates-Hillman building, which is zinc on the outside. That black is folded zinc. That works in that context because, of all the other sort of yellow buildings. Is that what you want here? So what they have is basically this mix of glass and brick. And so here are a bunch of brick mock-ups from a few different brick manufacturers to sort of decide what the bricks will look like. So here's, this was like the coldest day in January. We're standing out there staring at bricks. For God's sakes, they all look alike. I'm going back inside. So here they are. If you're welcome to walk over and take a look at the holes. Pretty cool. But you can also take a look at the brick mock-ups. An interesting thing, as appreciations of business will know, there's a new one that sort of appeared over here. There's like a rogue brick manufacturer just showed up and built us a brick mock-up. What do you teach people in marketing? Always be closing, right? Yeah. So I'm definitely going to get a quote from that guy because I'm pretty sure the bricks that my architects like are the most expensive bricks, which could be these ones. He really likes these long, thin, elegant bricks. The building's 300,000 square feet. How much are you going to notice a brick, right? But this is why you pay your architect. So this is the idea of basically this big amount of glass, these bricks that are here. If you zoom in, because it's hard to appreciate the scale, if you kind of zoom in on this left-hand corner, you get a feel for just sort of how there's a person, there's how big that is. And then you can see what they're trying to achieve in the brick, in the sense of this brick patterning, to try and what you want to do is you want to make sure your building doesn't look stripy, right? I think they have better words for it than stripy, but you want to make sure it doesn't look this way or that way because they kind of look goofy. And so you want to get this the right kind of syncopation of horizontal and vertical. Or if you want to say that architecturally, you say verticality, horizontality, right? And then the other thing you can see in the zoom in is all these sort of angles jutting out. So these, I've forgotten what they call these, prismatic voids. There's some sort of architectural feature. It makes the building look really cool. I've lost track of the language. In the background over here is what's going to be the Masters Commons area, the Masters Lounge. It's a background on Forbes Avenue. And then as you zoom in again, this is the sense in which the inside the building is going to be expressed on the outside. You can also see their brick detailing that they want here to sort of add some texture and patterns. This is an item that, I can't tell you the hours I have seen bricks passing past. Right? Here's the view from Forbes Avenue. This is the sense in which Forbes Avenue is going to be very different. So you're driving from the left to the right here. You're driving from Oakland towards Squirrel Hill. This is where the water main break was. So the Pittsburgh Sewer and Water shut down Forbes Avenue for like 6 weeks because they can't shut Forbes Avenue down because it's a state-run road. But when the water main broke, they had a list of things they wanted to fix. So it was shut down for 6 weeks, and Pittsburgh did not die. So as we sort of move through towards renovating Forbes Avenue to being a more urban street, this was a nice experiment. So this is the sense in which you're driving up. Heinz College would be on your right, so the Warner Hall would be on your right. This is the building that's off on the left. And you can see these sort of same elements replating here. This part down here will be the 600-seat auditorium, so largest auditorium on campus currently is 450 is the one over in McConomy in the University Center. So this will be the big, flat, flexible auditorium that's going in. This area in the center will be where the master students kind of hang out. So your future MBA students are there. Classrooms down here. Teaching non-classroom spaces up here, and then faculty move up on the top little bits. And then if you zoom in, you get a sense again of the scale here. You can see into the auditorium. Those are the seats in the auditorium. Sense of how big this is going to be. The sense in which this sort of auditorium activities sort of flow out. This master's lounge opening up onto this terrace is the Hope for Beers. So terraces are always on the bubble for budget, so don't quote me on that. And then the other part that'll be here, the sort of these so the building's 300,000 square feet, about 200,000 of that square feet will be Tepper space. The other 100,000 square feet will be the other activities on campus. So for this auditorium is sort of not part of our 200,000 square feet. We'll use it, but it'll be used for all kinds of things. This is the big new welcome center for students that visit campus. So every student that comes to campus, regardless of what your major is going to be, this will be your starting off point. This will be where you come for your tour, as opposed to the basement of Warner Hall or some other deep area. Here's again this picture, this view of the light. It gives a sense in which this is going to be a beacon from Squirrel Hill. You'll see this from all around. As you drive down Fifth Avenue, as you pass Neville Street, this jumps out at you. It never used to because of the trees and the slope. So here's a few floor plates are tedious to look at, but I'll give you a sense as to what's here. So on this ground floor, there's a couple of things. Most of the ground floor is kind of non-Tepper specific. There's an auditorium there in the left. There's a big fitness center, 7,500 square foot fitness center. And that fitness center, by the way, as you're doing your yoga here, is looking out over Oakland, so it's got these spectacular views. And then there is the technology enhanced learning. This is our learning science component. So this is not part of the business school, but clearly closely related. They do their support faculty in their teaching efforts, as well as do the science of learning. If you move up a floor, this is sort of the main, the big ticket item. This is this big giant hub forum. I've forgotten how many people Carl can fit in here. It's a lot. But you can think of 400 people eating lunch here would be, big and vibrant and not crowded. So you come in the main hall, and undergraduate students will turn to the right. Your MBA students would turn to the left. That's here. Here's sort of a sense in which this atrium will look like. This big glass curtain wall on your left, this big glass ceiling on the right. The glass continues around to the back side, assuming, budgets hold, that's what it'll look like. But it's a lot of glass. So the price of glass moves, we have a big problem. You also see these stairwells that are here. The architects call these social stairs, as opposed to sort of egress, exit stairs. The idea is basically the stairs are there, they're convenient. They're more gently sloped than just hoof it up Mount Everest kind of stairs. And so they're sort of more attractive. The elevators are intentionally tucked behind, so you first arrive at the stairs. That's partly the way you move, moving people between classes at 10:20, and they got to be in class at 10:30. It's not going to happen in the elevator, so this is why these stairs are here. On If you zoom in to get a feel for this, I don't know why, but there is a superhero getting a speeding ticket in the background. And over here is Will Smith. But you can also see the floor is this sort of exposed concrete. So the building will be mostly concrete on the inside. So this kind of loft-like building, exposed concrete on both the floor and the ceiling. It's fancy concrete. It's called voided slab concrete. You thought I was kidding when I said I could go on for hours? The technology of concrete that is going in here is these big slabs of concrete. And the way you make these big slabs of concrete function is you remove bits of concrete. So what they'll do is they'll build the rebar and put these little balls, like the size of milk jugs, little plastic balls in there, which will basically void the concrete. So this bubble deck is a trade name. A big, long deck will have these kind of holes in it, and the concrete is kind of only where it needs to be to hold up the building. And then you end up with this, less concrete, less expensive. And then also you can have these long slabs. It's they're lighter, right? So this will be, when it's done, the largest voided slab building in the Northeast. So this is a new technology to Pittsburgh. It's, at the moment, this is causing a bit of stress. This package is about to be bid, and so, it's like $30 million of the project. And so if it comes in 10% over, I have a problem. So I sat through, Jamie and I both sat through a year and a half ago, somewhere around December, the Concrete Association Industry of America had a webinar on voided slab concrete, and indeed I sat through it. And the guy who gave this was sort of right, central casting, I need a concrete engineer, right? They brought him in. He just, ill-fitting jacket, the tie was slightly askew, slightly Philadelphia accent, right? He starts off the webinar to let us know that the hashtag, should you wish to social media experience your webinar, was hashtag voided slab. So, I fired up the phone and tweeted, hey, I'm at the Concrete Industry of America hashtag. And then, we went on, the webinar went on for, 12, 15 hours or something like that. All kinds of fascinating details. I checked later, just said, I wonder, what sort of people, and I checked, if you search and Google that particular hashtag, you will find one and one only tweet, which was mine. So it'll be pretty cool when it happens. So that's coming. The floor, here's a picture of the stairs as you go up the stairs. As you go up the stairs here, off to the right will be the big entrepreneurship center. As you go up further up to the left, you'll eventually find your way over that way towards the MBA area. So if we move here sort of deeper into the hub, so to get a feel for this cafeteria over here will be about twice as big as a cafeteria that's currently serving us, but not counting the seating space, so it's going to be much bigger. The cafeteria here is ridiculously crowded. I don't know if you remember trying to get a coffee at 10:30, but it's outrageous. I asked our food services people where's the best dining on campus? And they said, the Exchange right here in your building. I said, that can't possibly be true. It's so crowded. And then as an economist, it dinged, right? That perhaps the fact it was so crowded has something to do with the fact it was offering good value for the money. So I humbly dropped that question and moved on. But this will solve some of that congestion problem because there's going to be a lot of people. So it's, multiple stations, the open cooking style that is popular now. As you zoom in here, you can see this is through to Oakland. It's not rendered in the background, but this is sort of images of Oakland, right? The Cathedral of Learning will be out in the back on the left side there. Here is a rendering of what the MBA area, the master's area would look like. The furniture is just sketched in. That's still to be work to be done. But what you'll see is, some classrooms spilling out onto the MBA area, a more innovative teaching area upstairs that's here. Here's if you zoom in, you can see what the concrete, right? This is essentially this loft-like feel, exposed concrete. The big worry, of course, is that we'll build the building like this and then the dean will walk in and go, that's great, when are you going to finish the ceiling? So let's be clear, when you come back and the building's done, you look up, you're not going to ask me when I'm going to finish the ceiling. The exposed ceilings are by design. That's the plan. If you move up a little bit, we should wrap up in a minute here. But here's sort of the challenge, which is the building's going to be around for 100 years, right? You know, our building's been around 70 years. It's not going anywhere. The university will take it over. How do you build for the future in, you know, when you don't know what it is? And this is my favorite picture. This is from 1982 Byte magazine. And what's spectacular about that is how accurate it is, right? You take your Apple Watch. Here's my Pebble, right? And my Pebble Watch indeed is a little computer that's living here. But what's remarkable is just how literal they were in the sense of the little tiny keyboard and the little tiny disk drive that goes in the side, right? So how do you kind of build that in? And so part of what's in the new building is some flexibility in the sense of the building is designed to be with these big floor plates. The building is easily transformed in terms of, you know, adding walls and removing walls is relatively straightforward. But here's the sort of metaphor I've been using. I've been using it enough that everybody on the working group yells at me when I show you this picture, but you haven't seen it yet. So this is from a book on architecture for elementary schools. And in particular, sort of think about sort of old elementary schools and everybody sitting in a desk in a row with the teacher at the front. This was how you did it. And you wouldn't put windows in a classroom because that's distracting, right? This was sort of the architecture of in the 1970s. This particular example is throw away the classroom. Your classroom's a pond. Right? Kind of random is arbitrary. Just, you know, figure out. Put the curriculum around that pond. That's stupid. You can't possibly do that. Well, if you spend a few minutes thinking about it, you can see that the entire elementary school curriculum fits around a pond, from mathematics to biology to you know, there's people doing poetry and acting up there. And so that's a sense in which a new environment gives you sort of this new way of thinking about teaching education. So here's sort of how we poked at this, and I'll wrap up here, is what MBA classrooms, MBA teaching areas look like circa, I don't know, 2012, is you've got some big classrooms and you've got lots of breakout rooms. And you do never have enough breakout rooms, is sort of the generic part. So we started here. How do you do something different? We sort of moved from, let's sort of get rid of a classroom and make some more sort of flexible area and do that. Let's jump further, scratch all that. And so this is my favorite sketch of our architect. This is when he was working in crayon. Eventually they work with a computer. Is, you know, flat that, give me sort of, you know, the analog of what we can do that's different. There's office hours and there's lecturing in the front. What's that spectrum that's in the middle? And so the idea is to build sort of an area like this that allows for all kinds of things. Some of it is group and teamwork. Some of it is individual study work that is the you know, what the architects call alone together time, which, you know, is often my wife and I texting on our phones in the living room with our beer and our wine, right? The alone together time. But these are sort of the ideas sort of build sort of impromptu places for you know, case competitions or hosting, you know, a day-long set of workshop on, you know, modeling, NPV modeling or something. Some version that's sort of less scripted classroom time. And so what exactly this will be is, you know, it's up in the air in the sense of future faculty will sort of figure out how to use this. But the idea is to sort of break them out of the classroom, try and schedule some things in around. Now, Bob was nervous about this for obvious reasons. So the nice feature of this is, here's the top is sort of how it'll be built. And here's the bottom in the sense of when it turns out I'm completely wrong and we need more classrooms, up go the walls and it's relatively straightforward. Or if it turns out that indeed classrooms are behind us, kids watch things on video and they meet in small groups or whatever the future will be, then the classrooms will look more like this. So the plan, these are sort of more renderings of what that will look like. Let me skip to entrepreneurship and we'll get done. So there's where we are. I had a beard last year. I was hoping it made me look distinguished. I think the consensus was it made me look homeless. So here is a homeless person standing in front of the building, right? There it is, right? That cathedral of learning is moving. This is coming, big coming. And this is like where we're supposed to be in the fall of 2018. That's the plan. All right.